Okay, so I'm going to walk you through bringing a topo in to Civil 3D. And the sample that I gave you guys are a topo that Charles and Carl did of this little roadway. It's a nice small topo, pretty simple. And I'll show you how to download the points into Civil 3D. So you go into File Explorer, which is this little icon that looks like a file folder. And the template is in the L drive. So if that's not opened up, you want to click the arrow next to it to open that up. So it's in the L drive. Down in the survey folder, open that up. And then work, open that up. And then Civil 3D, open that up, and then click on land. You're going to double click on the template .dwg, the one with the blue icon. So double click it to open up the template. It'll give you a warning that says this file is read-only, and it's meant to be read-only so that we can't accidentally overwrite the template. So you just hit yes here. As a read-only file, you'll be able to work on it, but you won't be able to save any changes unless you do what's called a save as. So what you do is you go up here to the big C in the upper left corner, select it and save as. And we're going to save it as a drawing. You can save this anywhere you want. Most people save it on the desktop. I'm going to save it as a different file. I'm just going to call this sample and then hit save. So now we have a new drawing called sample. It should show up in a new tab up here. Now we're going to bring in the points from the topo. We have a CSV of the topo. I happen to have saved it on my desktop. And I called it sample.csv. So it's up here on the desktop. It's called sample CSV. So that's the points file that I'm going to bring in. So in here on the left-hand side, you should have what's called the tool space. And the tool space has several tabs in it. We're going to select the survey tab and then select survey databases. And you're going to right click on it and select new local survey database. We're going to call it a name. I'm just going to call this guy a sample. If you have a job, I normally call it by the location. So if it's Pier 400, I'll call it Pier 400. If it's a topo that's done on Harbor Boulevard, I would call it Harbor Boulevard. In this case, I'm just doing it as an example, so I'm calling it sample. So I hit OK. Oh, it's not unique. I'm just going to call this test. And hit it OK. Hit OK. So once I create a new survey database, it opens it up underneath this menu. So in this case, I called it test. So we're going to select import events under your new survey database. You're going to right click on it and select import survey data. It's going to automatically select the new database that you've just created. So you just hit next. And this next window will ask you, where's the points file at? You click on this plus button to select your points file. And like I said earlier, it's on the desktop. Well, mine is on the desktop. And I'll scroll and I'll look for that CSV file that I talked about earlier. In this case, sample.csv. So I'll select it, click open. And Civil 3D is trying to recognize the point file format. It's usually smart enough to know what file format it is. Normally, if you take something from Trimble Access from your controller, it'll be in point number, northern, easting, elevation, description. And as you can see, Civil 3D was smart enough to highlight that file format. And it delineates each section accordingly. So you hit next here, and then next here again. And in this next window, you just want to make sure that process line work during import is checked as a yes. And insert figure objects is a yes. And insert survey points is also a yes. Once you've set this up one time, every subsequent drawing will already have these checked, and you shouldn't have to check them each time. So you hit finish. And if everything is coded correctly out in the field, it should draw itself, put everything in its correct layers, and color everything accordingly. Now, there are two main errors that people make when performing a topo. One is miscoding something, and the other is when you might lean the rod and have one of your lines crossing over the other when they're supposed to be parallel, like flow line and TC. To make this clearer, so TC is normally on one side and the flow line runs parallel to it. Well, once in a while, the rod will be leaning, it won't be plumb, and TC will be on the wrong side of flow line, or vice versa. Flow line will be on the other side of TC. So we're going to correct those two errors. So the first error, this is the order of operations. The order of operations are pretty important. The first thing you want to do is check for any codes that were incorrectly input in the field. So this is one example. We have two vent shots, and this is what a correctly coded vent shot should look. It should have the block next to it. The block is basically a picture representing what the object is. Now our code is VNT for vent. Here, this point was incorrectly coded as VENT as opposed to VNT. So the block did not appear. That picture of a vent did not appear. So we're going to correct this code. And how we do that is we select the point by clicking on it. You go up to this ribbon and select this button that says Survey Point Properties. So we'll click that. And here's where you would change the code. You would correct it here. So you would select in that box, type in the correct code, which is VNT, and then hit OK. Once you do that, the code is corrected. You press Enter on the keyboard, and then you hit yes on this, and then OK on the next window. In Civil 3D, we'll correct it. And as you can see, it has changed the color coding. It has put it on the right layer. It has put the block or the drawing, the picture next to the vent. So it correctly shows on Civil 3D. So that's one of the corrections that we normally make for shots that are incorrectly coded. So press escape. And the other error that we normally see, like I mentioned earlier, was line work that crosses. So technically this cyan line, this light blue line should be on this side of the dark blue line, in which case this is a EP. So it's supposed to be parallel to each other. Now here, as I scroll through here, see here is where they cross. So we're just pretending that this point was the rod was leaning on the wrong side. And we're going to need to move this line and this point over on the other side so that it matches where it's supposed to be, which is on this side of the line. In order to do that, we go back into our tool space. Still in the Survey tab, you're going to go to your CSV file. In this case, ours is sample.csv. You're going to right click on it, go down to points, and then select Unlock in Drawing. What this does is it allows you to unlock the points in the drawing and move them wherever you want. So in this case, I'm going to select this point and this line, and I'm going to move it in this direction. So I'm just going to click here and make a crossing selection. So I'm going to click there, one small click, and everything that I touch will be selected. In this case, I just want this point and this line. So I'm going to left click again up here. And as you can see, it's highlighted. It's hard to see, but it's highlighted this point and this line. Now I'm going to take this point, I'm going to hover over it, click on it, and then move my cursor to this side of the other line. And then I'm going to click here. As you can see, let me press escape so we can see the difference in colors. It is now on the right side of the line. And if I go all the way through down the street, those lines are parallel like they should be, similar to the TC and a flow line and a gutter route. They should all be parallel to each other. So those are the two main corrections that we generally make, because those are the two most common errors you see on a topo. So practice on that. Once you've finished this little exercise, do it again until you get used to it, until it becomes second nature. Each time you start over, you go to the template, and once again, it's in L survey work civil 3D land. You double click on that template .dwg, which is the blue icon. Once again, it's in read only, which is what we want. So you hit yes. And then you're going to save it as, you go to here to this blue C button. You go to save it as a drawing, and just put it on your desktop again. This time call it something else. Hit save. And then you're going to do the same thing. You're going to go to the survey tab within the tool space. You're going to select the survey databases and then right click on it. We're going to create a new local survey database. Let's say this one's in Harbor Boulevard now. Boulevard, hit OK. And then once again, like before, the new survey database is opened up. You select import events, right click, select import survey data, and it's smart enough to select your brand new survey database. So you just hit next. This once again, you select your points file. So you click the plus sign to add your file. Like I said earlier, I'm on the desktop. My CSV is on the desktop. I scroll over to my CSV, which is right here, sample.csv, hit open, and Civil 3D recognizes the point file format. It automatically highlights it. You hit next, next. Like I said earlier, once you set up those check marks where it processes the line work and it inserts the figures and the survey points, those settings stay. So you just hit finish, and if everything's correctly coded, they go in the right layers, the right colors, blocks next to it, and do the same exercise where you change the code. You select the point that you want to change the code, hit survey point properties up here, change the code, hit OK, and enter. You hit yes and OK. And once again, it changes the point code, puts it in the right layer, colors it the right color, puts the right block on it if it has a block. Press escape because it was still selected, so you press escape and now it's no longer selected. You move to the line that you need to move, which is this one. You go back to your survey tab onto your sample.csv, right click on it, go down to points and select unlock in drawing. And we're going to select that point and that line by clicking here. And then you're just going to touch the objects you want to move. So in this case, I want to touch this point and this line. I don't want to touch this point or this line because those are going to be moved too if I select them. So I just want this point and this line. Click again, they are highlighted. Hover over the point, click on it, and then move it to the other side. And then press escape to unselect it. And now everything's in the right place. So you just want to practice that over and over. Once you're done, you can just close your drawing. I do it this way. I go up to the tab. These are the two drawings that I just created. So I can just hit X. I was just practicing, so I'm not going to save it. Same thing with the very first drawing. It's still open. You just hit X. And I'm not going to save it. So just practice that over and over until it kind of becomes second nature and you know how to do it without efficiently, quickly, and you should be set.